Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
And we're back. This is Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and today we're talking about insurance. Joining us in the studio from IntactInsurance is Patrick Magnuson, along with Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance, and Kyle Seguin from DC Pro, which is a locally family-owned and operated company. They offer unique and exciting new products that are help designed to protect your home and offer you peace of mind. We know them as damage control products, and it's DC Pro. So we have an amazing resource that IntactInsurance has created, and that's the new website. It's called insuranceisevolving.com. Patrick, what can you tell us about this?
Well, I think we know not only is insurance evolving, but our climate is evolving too. There's a lot of climate change happening, and as a result, it's what we're facing on the insurance side is it's evolving. It's changing a lot. So, for example, here in Vancouver, we live in one of the wettest cities in the world. BC is moist, it's wet, there's a lot of rainfall, and on this website you can get information on weather-related topics like weather change, weather events, house design, and information about what you should be thinking about when you insure your property. Basically, how can you prevent water damage, or if it does happen, how do you minimize the impacts of water damage? And of course, the perils across Canada are different. Intact is we're a national company, and certainly when we look in Alberta, wind and hail are huge perils, and they're causing damage, probably even more so than water. But it's not really as much of an issue here in British Columbia. If you go to Quebec, they have a completely sort of different set of perils based off their climate and the changes that they're seeing. So with this website, you can really pick on the province that you happen to live in. Most people here, it's going to be BC, but you can sort of see what's happening across the country. And because Canada is so large, we don't see the same impacts and the same degree of change in each province. So, Intact as a company has to be very flexible to make sure that we're meeting the needs and adapting to the changes that are happening nationally.
So there's not one sort of blanket policy that can cover all of this. You have to be very particular and very specific to each environment, each province, each city. Right.
So Intact, even though we're national, we have to think local. We have to tailor our policies and tailor our products to make sure that we're really achieving what needs to be hit and sort of in that specific province.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And we already established that water claims are one of the most common. We talked about that in the very first part of the show. So let's talk a little bit more about water and water damage being the biggest part of an insurance evolution. For any other reasons other than the obvious weather, we talked a little bit about technology and home design and how that's affected some of our situations. We just live differently than our parents did, and house designs are different than our parents were. So a couple of facts for us to think about. Did you know that between the years 2006 and 2012, the amount of insurance damage resulting from extreme weather in Canada increased by over 650%? So this would reflect some of the comments that you just made, Patrick, about isolated areas in Canada, more rain here than there is in the prairies, etc. Another insurance fact, in 9 years, water damage claims have risen from 20% of the total claims across Canada to 50%. And is that for any other reason than just the weather?
Well, I think it's weather, it's house design, it's...
bad construction? Different construction?
I think
we're not pointing fingers, but...
No, it's different construction, and it's just different ways we've lived. And, I think we've also done a really good job on focusing on some of those other perils. We have Smokey the Bear. We know about fire. We do. Our kids probably go through fire drills and how to escape from the home, because that's a different kind of peril. Because yes, it can destroy your home, but it can really destroy your lives. Typically with a burst pipe, you're not in physical mortal danger, but with fires you are. So I think the building industry has evolved with fire to try to minimize the impacts of that. So what we're seeing here is an increase in water, an increase in water damage, and an increase in water events. But we're also starting to see maybe a little bit of a decrease in some of the other areas like burglary and theft and fire, because we've recognized those, and those have been so front and center in people's minds. So what we need to do is make water damage front and center in people's minds, because this is a peril that is continuing to increase and is really quite devastating for a lot of people.
And very relevant for us here on the West Coast.
Absolutely.
And another fact to ponder, over 60% of insurance claims are due to water damage. We knew it was the most prevalent and one of the most common claims, but over 60%, that's a huge number. Does anybody care to elaborate on that statistic? Andrew, do you have anything?
Well, I haven't been in the business since I was 3 years old. Past 35 years, I've seen it all. Back in the 90s, we had issues with crane toilets, and there was crane toilets were breaking. Once a month, we're getting claims where people would go away, for the day they come home and find their crane toilet on the third floor had cracked and was water running down their stairs, and it goes back to what Patrick talks about. It's about home design. We in the old days, you had as he said, we had a concrete floor, and you mopped up the water, and you didn't really worry about it. You didn't phone in a claim. And now you've got hardwood floors. Well, if the water's on there for more than 15 minutes, you've got an issue, and that's why Kyle says you got to be out there and looking after the claim right away as quickly as possible, because significant damage does occur, and that's why those numbers of $20,000 on average is occurring.
I think if I could touch on that as well, you look at different types of building materials that were used in construction that certainly come to the forefront now in the polybutylene or poly-B pipe. Those are starting to get to the age where they're starting to expire. You look at clay tile or weeping tile, as Patrick mentioned earlier about the seepage. Those systems are starting to decay as well. And then you add the volume of homes into the same drainage systems that have been there for a period of time as well. So I think as that infrastructure grows and those systems aren't updated, maybe at the city side, but not on the residential side, it could have an impact as well.
That's an excellent point about the quality of the pipe, and it's old and as we evolve. So, Kyle, let's turn our attention to you for a little bit with damage control products. With water damage on the rise, what are some of the steps we can take to actually prevent the damage?
Well, with the AquaTrip, what we wanted to do was bring a product in that was simple, it was quick, it was very little maintenance, and certainly had a livability aspect that wouldn't get in the way of your daily life. So essentially what the AquaTrip is a breaker, much like in your electrical panel, for your water system. And what this device does is it's installed on your main water supply directly after your PRV valve, or at the earliest point of entry, you have a pressure relief valve that regulates city pressure to household pressure. Directly after that, the AquaTrip gets installed. And what it'll do is it'll measure the flow of water anywhere from 1 drip a second to full flow of water and anywhere in between. And after a consistent and uninterrupted flow of the preset period on the device, it'll automatically shut the water off at your main water and avoid any further water damage.
Wow. I don't think I'm the only one that never even knew something like this existed.
Right, absolutely. And then we've catered it towards the insurance world in the sense, as Patrick had discussed earlier about being away from the home, having a holiday mode. So what the unit does is it's smart at the valve itself. What it'll do is when it's measuring the flow of water, if it does not measure more than 3 minutes of flow in a 24-hour window, it'll automatically turn itself into holiday mode, only allowing 3 minutes of flow. So there's a bunch of functions on the unit beyond that, like night watch. It's either yes or no. And when night watch is activated, it only allows 5 minutes of flow between 12 midnight and 5 a.m. So in those hot spots and high risk times in your life, and everybody has a normal day-to-day process. And so identifying that at the time of installation and then programming the device to suit your life.
You make it sound really easy. Now, was there there was a great story you were going to share with us?
Absolutely. One of my favorite clients through my years as a project manager was the Jackson's family out of Langley. And their loss occurred in their crawl space with an on-demand hot water tank with poly-B pipe. It was in the summer, so the peril was covered. But what had happened is they have a place on the island and the pipe had burst in the crawl space, and it was a very small leak. But over 7 days, and the temperature of that hot water continually re-energizing, it filled their basement with steam, or their crawl space. And even on the top level of their home, beautifully well-kept, updated home, the cold air return, which is the grill in your hallway upstairs on forced air, was bleeding rust onto their carpets. We had to strip pretty well the entire home. And they were out, I believe, about 8 months. And the claims cost just on the emergency, the contents, and the reconstruction was $165,000.
Oh, my.
And when you actually look at the culprit, it's devastating to consider that, a half-inch split in a line would have caused that much damage.
That much damage.
So that one was that was a hard one to see when you go to somebody's home that was that well maintained, and ultimately they were out of their home for the balance of that project.
So this goes back to the essence of insurance that Patrick had established very early in this program about an unforeseen situation.
Right.
Who would ever have imagined? Andrew, do you have anything to?
Well, I was going to mention one other aspect because Patrick or
Kyle
was talking about the polybutylene piping, which is coming home to roost as an issue. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is their hot water floor in-ground systems. I've had now in the last couple of years, I've had 3 claims now where the piping inside the hot water floor in the floor has gone, and again, that's something is going to cause significant. I mean, those
extensive
claims,
damage.
Well, yeah, they're because it leaks all over and it flows all over. So now you're looking at removing a whole hardwood floor. Obviously, the repair of the pipe itself is the responsibility of the homeowner, but the flooring becomes an issue for the insurance company. And most of those floors, or a lot of them, have hardwood floor on them. So.
And it's not just the floor; it's the moldings, it's the drywall, it's anything else that has come in contact with that water, moisture, mold. We could probably talk about mold for an entire hour.
Well, except it's not insured, so I don't know if there's any point.
You are listening to Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and joining us in the studio today are the insurance experts, featuring Patrick Magnuson from IntactInsurance, along with Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance, and Kyle Seguin from DC Pro. If you want more information, you can go to our website, or you can go to intact.ca.
There's still more ahead with Experts on Call on CL 650.